The gun wasn't pointed at her yet, but Elena Cross knew it would be. She stood in Adrian Voss's corner office, 43 floors above Manhattan, watching the most dangerous man she'd ever met decide whether she was loyal or dead. His hand rested near the drawer, the one with the Glock. She'd filed the permit herself 3 months ago. "Say that again," he said, voice knife-thin. Elena lifted her chin. "I have a date tonight." His jaw tightened. Something flickered behind those cold gray eyes, something that terrified her more than the gun ever could. "Want to see how this plays out? Stay until the end, hit that like button, and drop a comment with your city so I can see how far this story travels." The first time Elena Cross walked into Adrian Voss's life, she wore a coffee stain on her blouse and arrived 11 minutes late. That was 4 months ago. She should have been fired before lunch. Adrian Voss didn't tolerate mistakes. He built empires by crushing people who wasted his time, and lateness, even by 60 seconds, qualified as waste. But when she'd stood in his office doorway, portfolio trembling slightly in her grip, and said, "The subway caught fire. I could have lied and blamed traffic, but I don't start jobs with bullshit," something shifted. He'd hired her on the spot. Now Elena understood that decision differently. Adrian didn't value honesty the way normal people did. He valued control. And honest people were easier to read, easier to manage, easier to own. She just hadn't realized he'd try to own her. "The Bergman contract," Adrian said without looking up from his laptop. "Where are we?" Elena glanced at the clock mounted above his desk, 6:47 p.m. Most of the 43rd floor had emptied 2 hours ago. Outside the floor-to-ceiling windows, Manhattan glittered like scattered diamonds, beautiful and cold. She'd stopped being impressed by the view after week 2. "Bergman's lawyers are stalling," she said, crossing the office with a folder tucked under her arm. She dropped it on his desk harder than necessary. "They want another week to review terms we already negotiated. I think they're buying time to find a better offer." Adrian's fingers stopped moving across the keyboard. He leaned back in his chair, Italian leather, obscenely expensive, and finally looked at her. Gray eyes, sharp enough to dissect. He had the kind of face people called handsome in boardrooms and dangerous in back alleys. Both were accurate. "You think, or you know?" "I know," Elena said. "Bergman's assistant called their primary competitor yesterday. 22-minute conversation. She used her personal cell, but she's sloppy about location services." One dark eyebrow lifted. "You're tracking his assistant's phone? You pay me to be thorough. I pay you to be my executive assistant, not NSA. Then maybe stop hiring people to handle problems you don't want to explain." The corner of his mouth twitched. Not quite a smile. Adrian Voss didn't smile. He occasionally allowed his face to acknowledge amusement before returning to its default setting of controlled menace. "Handle it," he said. "Tell Bergman he has 48 hours. After that, we move to acquisition talks with his competitor instead. He'll cave in 24. Confident. Accurate," Elena corrected. She turned to leave. "Elena." She stopped, hand on the doorframe, didn't turn around. "Yes?" "You're still here." "Observant. It's almost 7. I'm aware of time, Adrian. I exist in linear reality like everyone else." This time he definitely almost smiled. "Go home." "I have 3 emails to send first." "Send them tomorrow." "You'll want updates before your 8 a.m. with Chen." "Elena." His voice dropped half an octave, the tone that made junior executives sweat. "Go home." She turned then, met his gaze directly. "Are you actually concerned about my work-life balance? Or are you just uncomfortable that someone's still here to witness you being human?" Silence stretched between them. Dangerous silence, the kind that preceded either termination or something worse. Then Adrian did something unexpected. He closed his laptop. "Witness me being human?" he repeated, standing. He moved around the desk with the kind of fluid grace that came from expensive gym memberships and probably some kind of martial arts training. "You think I'm human, Elena?" "Jury's still out." He stopped 3 feet away. Close enough that she caught his cologne, something dark and woody that probably cost more than her rent. "Most people are afraid of me. Most people are smart." "And you're not?" Elena tilted her head. "I'm terrified of you, Adrian. I'm just better at hiding it than your other employees." Something flickered across his face. Surprise, maybe. or appreciation. With Adrian, emotions were brief guests, never residents. "Why do you stay?" he asked. The question caught her off guard. In 4 months, he'd never asked anything personal. Their relationship existed in a carefully maintained professional space, him giving orders, her executing them with an efficiency that bordered on prescient. "The pay is exceptional," she said. "That's not why." "The benefits are comprehensive." "Elena," she exhaled, "because you don't lie to me. Everyone else I've worked for, they smile and pretend the job is anything other than making rich people richer. You don't. You tell me exactly what you are and what you want. There's something almost respectful in that honesty." Adrian studied her for a long moment. "Almost respectful? You're still a terrible person. I'm just okay with that." Now he did smile. Barely. A ghost of expression that vanished as quickly as it appeared. "Go home, Elena. Send your emails tomorrow." She nodded, turned to leave. "And Elena?" "Yes?" "Thank you." She paused, hand on the door. Adrian Voss didn't say thank you. He didn't say please. Gratitude implied debt, and Adrian never owed anyone anything. "You're welcome," she said quietly, and left before he could see the confusion on her face. The next morning started normal. Coffee at 6:15 a.m. from the cart outside her building. The vendor knew her order by heart now. Black, no sugar, add a shot of espresso because sleep was a luxury she couldn't afford. Subway at 6:32. The morning crush of bodies and stale air, and someone's perfume making her eyes water. Office by 7:18. Early enough to prepare Adrian's schedule, late enough that building security had changed shifts, and Tony was at the desk instead of Marcus. Tony didn't try to flirt. She appreciated that. She'd just settled at her desk outside Adrian's office when her phone buzzed. Unknown number. "Hi, Elena. Marcus from your gym. Lost your number when I switched phones. Still interested in that coffee?" Elena stared at the message. She didn't go to a gym, had never met a Marcus who worked at one. She deleted it, flagged the number as spam. 2 minutes later, another text. "Unknown number. Sorry, wrong Elena. My friend gave me a number, must have mixed it up." "Have a great day?" She frowned. Spam callers didn't usually apologize. She blocked the number anyway. At 7:45, Adrian's private elevator opened. He stepped out looking like he'd already conquered half the city. Charcoal suit, silver tie, hairstyled with the kind of precision that suggested a personal barber. He carried a leather briefcase in one hand and a coffee in the other. He never brought his own coffee. "Morning," Elena said, standing. Adrian nodded, stopped at her desk. "The Bergman situation?" His lawyer called at 6:47 a.m. "They're accepting terms. Contract should be finalized by noon. Told you he'd cave in 24 hours. You said 48. I was being conservative." She accepted the coffee he'd set on her desk. "What's this?" "Coffee." "I can see that. Why?" "You drink it black with an extra shot. The cart outside your building." Elena's hand froze halfway to the cup. "How do you know where I get my coffee?" "I pay attention." "That's not paying attention, Adrian. That's surveillance." His expression didn't change. "Drink it or don't. I thought you'd appreciate not having to go downstairs." He walked into his office, door closing with a soft click. Elena stared at the coffee cup. Expensive logo, some boutique place in Tribeca. The exact order she got every morning. She should have been angry. Should have marched into his office and demanded to know why he was tracking her movements. But underneath the anger, something else stirred. Something uncomfortable and complicated. She took a sip. Perfect temperature. Damn him. The day unraveled with mechanical efficiency. Conference calls, contract revisions, an unfortunate incident where a junior analyst cried in the break room after Adrian eviscerated his quarterly projections. Elena found the analyst later, offered tissues and practical advice. Stop taking it personally. He destroys everyone's work. The difference is whether you fix it or quit. By 3 p.m., she'd handled 8 crises, prevented 3 more, and consumed enough coffee to fuel a small aircraft. She was reviewing acquisition targets when her personal phone buzzed again. Unknown number. Elena Cross? "This is Ethan Cole. We met at the Riverside Charity Gala last month. I was hoping I could take you to dinner." Elena's fingers stilled on her keyboard. The Riverside Gala. She'd attended as Adrian's +1, not a date, just professional necessity. He needed someone who could navigate donors without scaring them. She vaguely remembered Ethan. Tall, charming smile, worked in finance. They talked for maybe 10 minutes about nothing important. Elena, how did you get my number? Ethan, friend of a friend. Hope that's not too forward. If you're not interested, just say so. No pressure. She should delete it. Her life had exactly zero room for dating, but something made her hesitate. Maybe it was the way Adrian had known her coffee order. Maybe it was 4 months of existing in his orbit, feeling herself slowly becoming another asset he managed. Elena, dinner could work. When? Ethan, tonight? I know it's short notice. There's a place in Brooklyn I think you'd love. Elena, tonight's fine. Send me the address. She set her phone down, tried to focus on work. Failed. At 5:30, she knocked on Adrian's door. Come in. He was standing at the windows, hands in his pockets, staring out at the city. Something about his posture seemed different, tense. I'm leaving at 6 today, Elena said. Bergman contract isn't finalized yet. It will be by 5:47. Their legal team is just doing final formatting. Adrian turned. You have somewhere to be? I have a date. The words landed like dropped glass. Adrian's expression didn't change. He was too controlled for that. But something shifted in his eyes. Something cold. A date, he repeated. Yes. With whom? Elena crossed her arms. That's not professional information you need. Everything about you is information I need. I'm your assistant, Adrian, not your property. Silence, heavy and sharp. What's his name? Adrian asked quietly. Why does it matter? It matters. Ethan Cole. We met at the Riverside Gala. He seems nice. That's all you're entitled to know. Adrian's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. Ethan Cole. You know him? I know of him. Finance sector. Works for Meridian Group. And? And nothing. Adrian turned back to the windows. Have a pleasant evening, Elena. She should have left, should have taken the dismissal and gone. But something in his voice stopped her. Are you angry? She asked. Why would I be angry? I don't know. You tell me. Adrian's reflection in the glass was perfectly still. You're allowed a personal life, Elena. I don't own your time outside this office. Then why does it feel like you're lying? He turned slowly. When he looked at her, his eyes were flat and cold, the expression he used in hostile negotiations. Go on your date. We'll discuss your performance review tomorrow. My performance review? Adrian, I've exceeded every metric you've... Tomorrow, Elena. She stared at him. Something was wrong, something she couldn't name but felt in her bones. Fine, she said. Tomorrow. She left without looking back. What? Ethan chose a restaurant in Dumbo with exposed brick and dim lighting, the kind of place that tried too hard to be romantic. He was already there when Elena arrived, standing to greet her with that same charming smile. Elena, you look incredible. She'd changed into a simple black dress, minimal jewelry. Thanks. You didn't have to pick somewhere so fancy. Nothing's too fancy for someone who works for Adrian Voss. Ethan pulled out her chair. That must be intense. It's a job. Come on. Everyone who knows Voss is basically Manhattan's scariest businessman. What's he really like? Elena accepted the wine menu from their server. He's exacting, brilliant, and occasionally terrifying, but he's fair. Fair? Ethan laughed. I've heard stories about Voss. Fair isn't the word most people use. Most people don't work for him. True. Ethan leaned back. So how does someone like you end up working for someone like him? Someone like me? You seem normal, grounded. He seems like he probably eats junior analysts for breakfast. Only on Tuesdays, Elena said dryly. Wednesdays are reserved for disappointing board members. Ethan grinned. See, you're funny. I like that. They ordered, made small talk. Ethan was charming, attentive, asked reasonable questions. Everything about the evening should have been pleasant. But Elena couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. So tell me, Ethan said over appetizers, what's Voss working on these days? Anything exciting? I can't discuss his business affairs. Right, of course, professional confidentiality. He smiled. I just meant generally. Is he expanding into new markets? I heard rumors about a tech acquisition. Elena's fork paused halfway to her mouth. Where did you hear that? Oh, industry talk. Finance guys gossip worse than teenagers. The tech acquisition hasn't been announced yet. Ethan's smile didn't waver. Must have been speculation then. So it's true. She set her fork down carefully. Ethan, why did you really ask me out? Because I think you're beautiful and interesting. And? And what? What do you want to know about Adrian? His expression shifted, just slightly, the charm dimming like someone had turned down a dial. You're sharp. I like that about you. Answer the question. Ethan's side leaned forward. Look, I'm not going to insult your intelligence. Yes, I wanted to meet you partly because of who you work for. Voss is making moves that concern a lot of people who'd like to know what he's planning. So you thought you'd seduce his assistant for insider information? Seduce is a strong word. I prefer network. Elena started to stand. Ethan's hand shot across the table, not grabbing her, but hovering close. Wait, just hear me out. I'm not interested in whatever $20,000, Ethan said quietly. For information about the Bergman contract and the tech acquisition. Just details. Nothing that would hurt Voss, just enough to help some people prepare. Elena stared at him. You're actually trying to bribe me. I'm offering you an opportunity. Do you know what Voss pays you compared to what you're actually worth? You're brilliant, Elena. You could be running your own company instead of fetching coffee for a... I don't fetch coffee, she interrupted coldly. And Adrian Voss respects me more than you ever could. She grabbed her purse, stood. Ethan's expression hardened. You think Voss respects you? He owns you. You're a tool he uses. At least I'm being honest about what I want. Honest? You manufactured this entire evening. You got my number from somewhere, probably bought it, and set up a fake date to manipulate me. That's not honesty. That's pathetic. She turned to leave. Elena. His voice dropped. The people I work with don't like being told no. She turned back slowly. Is that a threat? It's advice. Think about the offer. I'll be in touch. Don't. She walked out, hands shaking. On the sidewalk, she pulled out her phone. Her first instinct was to call Adrian, tell him what happened. But admitting she'd been targeted, that she'd walked into such an obvious setup, felt like failure. Instead, she hailed a cab, gave the driver her address. The car had gone 3 blocks when she noticed the sedan behind them. Black Mercedes, tinted windows, following at exactly the same speed. Elena's pulse kicked up. Can you take a right at the next light? The driver glanced at her in the rear-view mirror. That's not the fastest way to... Please, just do it. He turned. The Mercedes turned. Now, left. Left turn. The Mercedes followed. Miss, is someone... Drive to the nearest police station. The driver's eyes widened, but he nodded, accelerated. The Mercedes kept pace. Elena pulled out her phone with shaking hands. She should call 911. Should call the police. Should do anything except what she actually did. She called Adrian. He answered on the first ring. Elena? I think someone's following me. Where are you? His voice was sharp, controlled, but underneath she heard something else. Fury. In a cab. We just passed... She looked out the window. Houston and Lafayette. There's a black Mercedes following us. I told the driver to head to a police station, but tell him to go to 47 Worth Street instead. Adrian, that's not 47 Worth Street, Elena. Now. She gave the driver the address. He changed course. What happened? Adrian asked. The date was a setup. Ethan wanted information about you. When I refused, he implied his people might retaliate. Silence. Then, did he touch you? No. Are you hurt? No, I'm fine. I just... Stay on the phone with me. The cab pulled up to a nondescript building in Tribeca. Before Elena could pay, Adrian was there, pulling open the door. He looked different than he had at the office. He'd lost the jacket, rolled up his sleeves. His hair was slightly disheveled, like he'd been running his hands through it. Go, he told the driver, pressing bills through the window. More than enough to cover the fare in silence. The cab disappeared. The Mercedes stopped half a block away, idling. Adrian's hand settled on Elena's lower back, guiding her toward the building's entrance. His touch was firm, proprietary. "We need to talk," he said quietly, "about what happened. Inside first." The building's lobby was sleek, modern, and entirely empty. Adrian led her to an elevator, pressed the button for the penthouse. "You have an apartment in Tribeca," Elena said slowly. "I have apartments in several places. This one's secure." The elevator rose in silence. When the doors opened, they stepped into a sprawling penthouse that looked nothing like what Elena expected. She'd imagined something cold and modern, all glass and steel. Instead, the space was warm, dark wood floors, leather furniture, bookshelves lining one wall. It looked lived in. It looked like a home. "How did you get here so fast?" Elena asked. "You were at the office when I called." "I wasn't at the office." "Where were you?" Adrian walked to the windows, stared out at the city. "I was following you." The words hit like a physical blow. "You were what?" "I've had someone watching you since you started working for me." Elena's breath caught. "Watching me? Adrian, that's necessary," he interrupted, turning. "Do you know how many people would love to get to me through you, how many enemies I've made? You're a vulnerability, Elena. The moment you walked into my office, you became a target." "So you've been having me surveilled for 4 months?" "Yes." "And you didn't think to tell me?" "Would you have stayed if I had?" She didn't have an answer for that. Adrian moved closer, his expression unreadable. "Ethan Cole doesn't work for Meridian Group. He works for Marcus Chen." Elena's eyes widened. "Your competitor? The one who's been trying to undermine my acquisitions for the last 2 years?" "Yes." Adrian's jaw tightened. "Chen doesn't play games, Elena. If you'd given Ethan what he wanted, they would have used it to destroy deals worth hundreds of millions. And if you'd refused, which I knew you would, they'd find other ways to leverage you." "Other ways like following me home?" "Yes." Elena sank onto the couch, her legs suddenly unsteady. "This is insane. This is my world." Adrian sat across from her, forearms on his knees. "I should have warned you. Should have been honest about what you were walking into. But I needed someone competent, and you're the best assistant I've ever had. I was selfish." "You think?" "I'm sorry." She looked up sharply. "You're what?" "I'm sorry, Elena, for putting you in danger, for not being honest, for—" He stopped, something crossing his face. "For a lot of things." They sat in silence. Outside, the city hummed with its usual chaos, indifferent to the mess unfolding inside. "What happens now?" Elena asked. "Now I handle Chen and his people. You stay here tonight, where it's safe." "I'm not hiding." "Yes, you are. Until I know what Chen's planning, you don't leave this building without security." "Adrian, this isn't negotiable." His voice turned hard. "You work for me. That means you're under my protection whether you like it or not." "I'm not property." "No, you're not." He stood, ran a hand through his hair. The gesture made him look younger, more human. "But you're also not going to get hurt because I failed to protect what's mine." "What's yours?" Elena repeated quietly. Adrian met her eyes. For the first time since she'd known him, his control wavered. She saw something raw underneath, something dangerous and possessive and far too intense. "Yes," he said. "Mine." The word hung between them like a challenge. Elena should have been afraid, should have run, should have done anything except feel her pulse quicken, except meet his gaze and hold it. "I should call the police," she said. "They can't help you. Chen has judges in his pocket." "I should quit." "You won't." "How do you know?" Adrian moved closer, slow and deliberate, until he was standing directly in front of her, close enough that she had to tilt her head back to maintain eye contact. "Because you like it," he said quietly. "The danger, the chaos, the fact that working for me means never being bored. You could have left a dozen times. You stay because part of you wants exactly this." "You're wrong." "Am I?" She wanted to say yes, wanted to tell him he was arrogant and delusional and completely wrong about her, but the words stuck in her throat because they would have been lies. I hate you, she whispered instead. No, you don't. You terrify me. That I believe. His hand came up, fingers brushing her jaw so lightly she barely felt it. But you're still here. Because someone's following me. Is that the only reason? Elena's breath caught. They were crossing a line. She could feel it happening, the professional boundary they'd maintained for 4 months dissolving like sugar in water. Adrian, she started, tell me to stop. His thumb traced her lower lip. Tell me this is inappropriate and you want me to back away, and I will. I'll protect you, handle Chen, and we'll never speak of this again. And if I don't, then I'm going to kiss you, and everything changes. Her heart hammered. Everything's already changed. Not yet. His eyes searched hers. But it will. And once we cross this line, Elena, there's no going back. I don't do casual. I don't do temporary. If we do this, you're mine. Completely. That's insane. Yes. You're my boss. Technically. This is the worst idea either of us has ever had. Probably. She should have said no. Should have stood up, walked away, preserved what was left of their professional relationship. Should have done anything except lean forward and close the distance between them. The kiss was nothing like she'd imagined. There was no tenderness, no gentle exploration. It was possession. Adrian's hand sliding into her hair, angling her head exactly where he wanted it, his mouth claiming hers with an intensity that made her dizzy. Elena kissed him back just as fiercely, fingers gripping his shirt, pulling him closer. 4 months of tension ignited all at once. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Adrian rested his forehead against hers. Mine, he said again. Not a question this time. This is going to be complicated, Elena managed. Yes. Chen's people are still out there. I know. And you're still a terrible person. Absolutely. He pulled back just enough to meet her eyes. And for the first time since she'd known him, Adrian Voss smiled, really smiled. But I'm your terrible person now. That's not how this works. That's exactly how this works. She laughed despite everything, despite the danger, despite the insanity, despite knowing her life had just become infinitely more complicated. What happens tomorrow? She asked. Tomorrow I destroy Marcus Chen for touching what's mine. Tonight? His fingers traced down her spine. Tonight you stay here, safe. And you? I have calls to make. People to remind why crossing me is fatal. He kissed her again, slower this time, but no less intense. Get some rest, Elena. The next few days are going to be interesting. That's one word for it. He grabbed his jacket, headed for the door. Adrian? He turned. Don't do anything stupid, Elena said. Define stupid. Anything that gets you killed before I figure out if I actually like you. His smile turned dangerous. I'll try to restrain myself. The door closed behind him, locks engaging with soft clicks. Elena sat alone in Adrian Voss's penthouse, her lips still tingling, her world completely upended. Outside, Manhattan glittered with indifferent beauty. And somewhere in that city, Marcus Chen's people were planning their next move. Elena pulled out her phone, stared at the blocked number from earlier, the wrong Marcus text. It hadn't been wrong at all. They'd been testing her, seeing if she'd respond, and now they knew she would. She stood, walked to the windows, looked out at the same view Adrian had stared at minutes before. Somewhere down there, he was making calls, assembling his response, preparing for war. And Elena Cross, who'd walked into his office 4 months ago looking for a job, was now standing in the center of a battlefield. She should have been afraid. Instead, she felt alive. Her phone buzzed, unknown number, again. She almost didn't answer. Then curiosity, or maybe recklessness, won. Yes? Miss Cross. A voice she didn't recognize. Male, smooth, dangerous. We should talk. Who is this? Someone who wants to help you. Ethan was clumsy tonight. I apologize. But the offer stands. 20,000 for information. 50 if you can arrange a meeting with Voss. Elena's grip tightened on the phone. Go to hell. You're angry. Understandable. But consider your position, Miss Cross. You're valuable to Voss, which makes you valuable to us. We can either do this the easy way or the hard way. Your choice. I choose the way where you leave me alone. Not an option, I'm afraid. We'll be in touch. The line went dead. Elena stared at her phone, pulse racing. She'd chosen Adrian, chosen to stand with him instead of running. But standing with Adrian Voss meant standing in the line of fire. And the fire was just beginning. Elena didn't sleep. She spent the night in Adrian's penthouse, moving between the windows and the couch, watching the street below for black sedans that never appeared. At 3 a.m., she raided his kitchen and found it stocked with actual food. Not the bachelor essentials she'd expected, but real ingredients: fresh vegetables, pasta, expensive olive oil. It was oddly humanizing, discovering Adrian Voss knew how to feed himself. She made coffee as the sun started bleeding color into the Manhattan skyline. Her phone sat on the counter, silent since that last threatening call. She'd thought about telling Adrian, then decided against it. He was already planning something. Adding fuel would only make the explosion bigger. At 6:30, her phone buzzed. Adrian, still alive? She typed back. Disappointed? Relieved. Stay put. I'm sending a car at 8. For what? Work. You still have a job, Elena. After last night? Especially after last night. She stared at the message, trying to decode what he meant. With Adrian, everything had subtext. Layers beneath layers. What about Chen's people? Handled. That's not an answer. It's the only one you're getting. See you at the office. The car arrived at exactly 8. Not a standard town car, a black SUV with windows tinted so dark they looked like obsidian. The driver was built like he moonlighted as a bouncer. He opened the door without speaking, waited. Elena climbed in. The interior smelled like leather and gun oil. I'm Marcus, the driver said once they were moving. Elena's head whipped around. Marcus? Not that Marcus. He met her eyes in the rearview mirror. His were cold, professional. Mr. Voss hired me this morning. Former Marine. I'll be your security detail until the current situation resolves. I don't need a bodyguard. Mr. Voss disagrees. Of course he does. Marcus almost smiled. He said you'd be difficult about this. What else did he say? That you're smarter than most of his employees, and I should listen if you give me a direct order, unless that order involves leaving you unprotected. Then I'm supposed to ignore you. Sounds like Adrian. They drove in silence. Elena watched the city pass, morning rush hour choking the streets, everyone moving with that particular New York urgency. Her normal life felt like something that had happened to someone else. Yesterday morning, she'd been an executive assistant navigating corporate politics. Now she had a bodyguard and people following her, and Adrian Voss's taste still on her lips. The elevator to the 43rd floor required a key card Marcus didn't have. Elena swiped hers, felt his presence like a shadow behind her as they rode up. The floor was already busy. Junior analysts hunched over terminals, assistants fielding calls. Everything looked normal. But Elena had learned to read the tension in these spaces, the way people's shoulders tightened when Adrian was in a mood, the careful quietness that meant someone was about to get fired. Today, that tension was everywhere. She walked to her desk. Adrian's door was closed, but light showed underneath. Marcus positioned himself near the elevators, hands clasped in front of him, eyes scanning. Elena had barely sat down when Adrian's door opened. He looked like he hadn't slept either. His suit was different from yesterday, navy instead of charcoal, but his tie was slightly loose and there was a shadow of stubble on his jaw. His eyes found hers immediately. Elena, my office. She stood, very aware of every pair of eyes tracking her movement. Office gossip spread faster than wildfire. By lunch, everyone would know she'd arrived with security and gone straight into Adrian's office. She closed the door behind her. Adrian was already at his desk pulling up files on his computer. Did Marcus behave? He asked without looking up. He's fine. Intense, but fine. He's former Force Recon. Intense is his default setting. Adrian, I don't need... Yes, you do. Now he looked at her. His expression was carved from stone. Chen made his move last night. 3 of his people followed you. I had 2 of mine following them. One of Chen's idiots tried to approach the building around midnight. He's currently explaining himself to some mutual acquaintances who don't appreciate freelance operations in their territory. Elena's stomach dropped. What does that mean? It means I called in favors. reminded certain people that Chen's been operating without permission in areas that aren't his. They were very interested to hear about his unauthorized surveillance activities. You sicked the mob on him? Adrian's eyebrow lifted. I don't sick anyone. I simply provided information to interested parties. That's semantics. That's business. He stood, moved around the desk. Chen overplayed his hand. He thought he could pressure you quietly, get what he wanted, disappear. Instead, he's now dealing with people who make me look friendly. I got another call last night, Elena said. After you left. They offered $50,000 for a meeting with you. Adrian went very still. You didn't mention that. I'm mentioning it now. What did you say? I told them to go to hell. Something shifted in his expression, pride maybe. And then? They said it wasn't an option, that they'd be in touch. She crossed her arms. So what's the play here, Adrian? We can't just hide forever while you play gangster politics. The play is I destroy Chen's credibility, dismantle his operations, and make it very clear what happens when someone targets my people. Your people. Yes. I'm not a chess piece. No. He moved closer, his voice dropping. You're the queen, the most valuable piece on the board, which is exactly why Chen wants you. Elena's pulse kicked up. They were standing too close for this to be professional. The memory of last night's kiss hung between them like smoke. What happened to handling this quietly? She asked. That was before they threatened you twice. Adrian's hand came up, fingers brushing her cheek. The gesture was possessive, territorial. I don't do quiet when it comes to protecting what's mine. We need to talk about that word. Mine? Yes. What about it? You can't just claim people, Adrian. That's not how relationships work. His smile was sharp. We're not having a relationship. We're having a merger. A merger. You bring efficiency, intelligence, loyalty. I bring protection, resources, power. Mutually beneficial arrangement. That's the most romantic thing anyone's ever said to me, Elena said dryly. I'm not romantic. I'm practical. You kissed me last night. That was practical too. How? You needed to know where we stand. Now you do. Elena stared at him. You're impossible. I'm effective. He stepped back, returning to professional distance. We have work. The Bergman contract needs final signatures. The tech acquisition moves to phase 2, and I need you to compile everything you know about Chen's operations. Why? Because I'm going to the board with a formal complaint. Chen's been engaged in corporate espionage, bribery, and now stalking. By the time I'm done, he won't be able to get a job managing a parking garage. That seems excessive. He threatened you. Excessive is the minimum response. Before Elena could answer, her desk phone rang through the open door. She moved to answer it, Adrian following. Elena Cross. Miss Cross, this is reception. There's a gentleman here to see Mr. Voss. Says it's urgent. Elena glanced at Adrian's calendar on her screen. He doesn't have any appointments until 10. I know, but the gentleman is quite insistent. His name is Marcus Chen. The world seemed to tilt slightly. Adrian was already moving, taking the phone from her hand. Send him up and alert building security. He hung up, his expression ice cold. He's coming here, Elena said. That's bold even for him. He's desperate. I destroyed 3 of his supplier contracts this morning. By noon, 2 of his board members will have resigned. He's hemorrhaging resources. Adrian's smile was predatory, so he's trying a direct approach. What do you want me to do? Stay in the office. Door closed. Marcus stays with you. No. Elena, if this is about me, I'm not hiding while you handle it. I want to see Chen. I want him to know I'm not afraid. Adrian studied her for a long moment. You're sure? Completely. Then you sit at your desk. Look busy. When Chen arrives, you ignore him completely unless I specifically ask for your input. Can you do that? I'm an executive assistant. Ignoring people is literally half my job. The elevator chimed. Marcus, the bodyguard, straightened, hand moving slightly toward his jacket. The movement was subtle but unmistakable. He was armed. The elevator doors opened. Marcus Chen stepped out, flanked by 2 men in expensive suits who were definitely not assistants. They had the same contained violence as Elena's Marcus, the kind of stillness that came from knowing exactly how to hurt people. Chen himself was mid-50s, silver hair, tailored suit that probably cost more than Elena's monthly rent. He looked like every other wealthy executive in Manhattan, which meant he looked dangerous in the way apex predators looked harmless until they struck. His eyes swept the floor, landed on Adrian's office door, then shifted to Elena. He smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. "Miss Cross, how lovely to finally meet you properly." Elena didn't respond. She turned back to her computer, fingers moving over the keyboard like he didn't exist. Chen's smile tightened. He looked at Adrian, who'd positioned himself in his office doorway. "Marcus," Adrian said flatly, "what an unexpected visit." "Adrian, we need to talk." "Then talk. Privately would be better. I don't do private meetings with people who stalk my employees." Chen's jaw tightened. "I don't know what Ethan told you, but Ethan told her exactly what you paid him to say. 20,000 for information, 50 for a meeting. Should I continue?" The floor had gone silent. Every employee was pretending to work while listening to every word. "Perhaps we should discuss this in your office," Chen said quietly. "Unless you want your entire staff hearing your business." "My staff is loyal, unlike yours." But Adrian stepped aside. 5 minutes. Chen walked past Elena without looking at her. His bodyguard started to follow. "They stay out here," Adrian said. "I don't think so." "Then neither do you." The two men stared at each other, chess players evaluating the board. Finally, Chen nodded to his people. They took positions near the elevator, mirroring Marcus's stance. The door closed behind them. Elena stared at her screen, not really seeing it. Every instinct screamed at her to press her ear against the door, but that would be obvious. Instead, she opened a file, tried to focus. "You okay?" Marcus asked quietly. She glanced at him. "Honestly, no idea." "Boss knows what he's doing." "Does he?" "He's still alive. In his line of work, that means something." Inside the office, voices rose, not shouting, but sharp. Controlled anger was somehow worse. The door opened 5 minutes later. Chen emerged looking like he'd swallowed glass. His face was composed, but his eyes were furious. "This isn't over," he said. "Yes, it is." Adrian's voice was flat, final. "You come near Elena again, you even think her name, and I'll bury you so deep you'll never surface. We clear?" Chen's smile was sharp and cold. Crystal. He walked to the elevator, his men falling in behind him. The doors closed on his expressionless face. The entire floor exhaled. Adrian looked at Elena. "My office. Now." She stood, followed him inside. The door clicked shut. "What did he say?" she asked. "He wanted to make a deal. Said Ethan acted without authorization. He's been disciplined, and Chen will back off if I agree to stay out of a port acquisition he's pursuing." "What did you say?" "I told him to go fuck himself." Elena blinked. Adrian rarely swore. "That seems undiplomatic." "He threatened you. Diplomacy ended the moment his people followed you home." Adrian moved to the windows, hands in his pockets. "He knows he's losing. The board complaint will go through by end of week. His investors are already nervous. 2 more supplier contracts disappear and he's finished." "So this is actually over?" "Not even close." Her stomach sank. "Explain." Adrian turned. "Chen's desperate. Desperate men don't follow rules, they escalate." He paused. "I need you to leave the city for a few days." "Absolutely not." "Elena, no. You don't get to kiss me, call me yours, then ship me off like baggage when things get complicated." "This isn't about complicated. This is about keeping you alive." "Then we both leave. Together." "I can't. I have meetings, contracts, the board complaint. If I disappear now, Chen wins." Elena crossed her arms. "Then I'm not leaving either. You're being stubborn." "I learned from the best." They stared at each other. Outside, Manhattan hummed with indifferent life. "Compromise," Adrian said finally. "You stay at the penthouse. Marcus with you at all times. No going anywhere alone. No exceptions." "What about work?" "You work from there. I'll have everything you need sent over." "That's not a compromise. That's house arrest. That's survival." He moved closer, his expression serious. "I can't protect you and handle Chen at the same time if you're wandering around the city. So you stay somewhere safe while I dismantle his empire." Once he's neutralized, you come back. Normal life resumes. Normal, Elena repeated. You really think we're going back to normal after this? No? His hand came up, fingers tangling in her hair. But we'll figure out what comes next. Together. The kiss was different than last night. Slower. Still intense, but layered with something else. Promise? Maybe? Or threat? When they broke apart, Elena's head was spinning. I hate this plan, she said. I know. But I'll do it, on one condition. Which is? You end this fast. I'm not hiding in your penthouse for weeks while you play corporate warfare. Adrian's smile was sharp. 72 hours. That's all I need. To destroy Marcus Chen? To destroy everything he's built. Elena searched his face. You're enjoying this. Watching someone who threatened you lose everything? Absolutely. That's unhealthy. Probably. He kissed her again, quick and hard. Marcus will take you to the penthouse. I'll send files within the hour. Stay put, stay safe. And Elena? Yes? Thank you for trusting me. She left before she could change her mind. The ride to Tribeca was quiet. Marcus navigated Manhattan traffic with military precision, his eyes constantly checking mirrors. Elena watched the city pass, feeling like she was leaving something important behind. The penthouse looked different in daylight. Still expensive, still beautiful, but somehow emptier. She dropped her bag on the couch, pulled out her laptop. Work was a distraction she desperately needed. Files started arriving, contracts to review, emails to answer, schedules to coordinate. She lost herself in the familiar rhythm of solving problems. Hours passed. The sun moved across the sky. At 4 p.m., her phone buzzed. Unknown number. Her finger hovered over the decline button. Then curiosity won. Hello? Miss Cross? Not the voice from last night. This one was older, rougher. We haven't been properly introduced. My name is Vincent Cole. Elena's blood went cold. Cole. Ethan's last name. I don't want to talk to you, she said. Understandable. My nephew handled things poorly, but family is family, and Ethan says you embarrassed him. That creates problems. He tried to bribe me. I said no. That's not embarrassment. That's consequences. Perhaps. Vincent's voice was calm, almost pleasant. But consequences go both ways. You've made an enemy of the Cole family. That's unfortunate. Is this another threat? This is information. Adrian Voss is powerful, but he's not invincible. And right now he's made a lot of people very angry. Chen, myself, others. You're standing next to a man with a target on his back. Then I guess we'll both need to watch where we step. Brave words. But bravery doesn't stop bullets, Miss Cross. The line went dead. Elena stared at her phone, heart hammering. She should call Adrian. Should tell him about Vincent Cole. Should do something other than sit here feeling walls close in. Instead, she stood, walked to the windows. 40 floors below, Manhattan sprawled in all directions. Millions of people living their normal lives, completely unaware of the shadow games being played in boardrooms and penthouses. She'd chosen this. Chosen Adrian. Chosen to stay. Chosen to stand in the line of fire. The question was whether that choice would kill her. Her phone buzzed again. This time it was Adrian. How are you holding up? Someone named Vincent Cole just called. Made vague threats about bullets. The response came fast. Vincent is Chen's partner. They run operations together. I'm handling it. How? Better you don't know. Adrian. Trust me, Elena. 72 hours. That's all I need. She wanted to argue. Wanted to demand details. Wanted to know exactly what handling it meant. But some part of her, the part that had survived 4 months working for Adrian Voss, understood that sometimes ignorance was safer. Fine. But if you die, I'm definitely quitting. Noted. Stay put. Marcus is good at his job. He barely talks. That's why he's good at it. Elena almost smiled despite everything. She set her phone down, returned to work. The afternoon bled into evening. Marcus ordered food, Thai from a place that delivered to the penthouse directly. They ate in silence. Elena at the dining table, Marcus near the door like a sentinel. Can I ask you something? Elena said finally. Marcus looked at her. Depends on the question. How long have you worked for Adrian? Today's my first day? Seriously? He called me at 5 a.m., offered triple my usual rate to guard someone important. I said yes. Did he tell you who? He said you were his assistant, that people were targeting you to get to him, that if anything happened to you, he'd personally make sure I regretted being born. Elena's eyebrows rose. He said that? Word for word. Marcus's expression didn't change. I've worked for a lot of powerful people, Miss Cross. Most of them don't care about their staff beyond utility. But Mr. Voss? The way he talked about you? He shook his head. That man would burn the city down to keep you safe. That's dramatic. That's accurate. They finished eating in silence. At 11 p.m., Elena tried to sleep. Failed. The penthouse was too quiet, too empty. She kept expecting Adrian to walk through the door, tie loosened, looking exhausted but satisfied. Instead, she lay alone in the guest room, staring at the ceiling, wondering what he was doing. Wondering if Chen or Vincent or whoever else was out there would actually follow through on their threats. Wondering if she'd made a catastrophic mistake. Her phone buzzed. Adrian, like he could sense her spiraling. Stop thinking so loud, I can feel it from here. Where are you? Office. Working. It's almost midnight, and? Normal people sleep. Good thing neither of us is normal. Elena smiled despite herself. What are you working on? Documents that will end Chen's career. Want me to send you the highlights? Will they make me feel better or worse? Probably worse. But definitely satisfied. Then yes. The files came through. Elena pulled out her laptop, started reading. Adrian wasn't exaggerating. He'd compiled a devastating case. Emails showing Chen's bribery operations. Financial records proving corporate espionage. Testimony from 3 former employees detailing illegal activities. It was thorough, brutal, and absolutely damning. How did you get all this? I have resources. That's not an answer. It's the only one you're getting. Sleep, Elena. Tomorrow's going to be interesting. Define interesting. The kind where Chen realizes he's already lost. She set her phone down, tried to feel victorious. Instead, she just felt tired. Sleep came eventually, restless and thin, full of dreams where she was running through empty buildings while footsteps echoed behind her. She woke at 6 a.m. to sunlight streaming through unfamiliar windows and Marcus knocking softly on the door. Miss Cross? Mr. Voss is here. Elena sat up, heart jumping. What? She pulled on clothes, emerged to find Adrian standing in the living room. He looked like he'd come straight from the office. Suit wrinkled, hair disheveled, exhaustion carved into his face. What happened? She asked. Adrian's smile was sharp and satisfied. Chen's board held an emergency meeting at 4 a.m. They voted unanimously to remove him as CEO pending investigation into the evidence I submitted. By noon, federal investigators will be looking into his operations. By tonight, Marcus Chen will be finished. Elena stared at him. It's done? Almost. Vincent Cole is still a problem, but without Chen backing him, he's significantly less dangerous. So I can leave, go back to work? Not yet. Give it another 24 hours. Make sure there's no retaliation. Adrian moved closer, his expression softening slightly. I know you hate this, but I need to know you're safe. I am safe. Marcus doesn't let me out of his sight. Good. They stood there, the morning light making everything feel surreal. You look terrible, Elena said. Destroying someone's empire is exhausting work. Come here. She pulled him to the couch. Adrian went without resistance, collapsing beside her like his strings had been cut. When did you last sleep? Elena asked. Tuesday? Adrian? I'm fine. You're definitely not fine. She stood. Stay here. I'm making coffee. She returned minutes later with 2 cups. Adrian had his eyes closed, head tipped back against the couch. For the first time since she'd known him, he looked vulnerable. Drink, she said, pressing a cup into his hands. He obeyed, took a long sip. This is good. I pay attention too. His eyes opened, meeting hers. I know. They sat in silence, drinking coffee as Manhattan woke up outside. What happens after this? Elena asked finally. After Chen's gone and Vincent's handled and everything goes back to normal? I told you, we're not going back to normal. Then what are we going to? Adrian set his cup down, turned to face her fully. I don't know. I've never done this before. Corporate warfare? Caring about someone enough that the thought of them being hurt makes me irrational. Elena's breath caught. That's the most honest thing you've ever said to me. Don't get used to it. But he was smiling slightly. I'm not good at this, Elena. Relationships, feelings, any of it. I'm good at strategy and control and destroying obstacles. But you... He stopped, shook his head. You make me want to be better at the parts I'm bad at. That might be the second most honest thing. I'm tired. It's making me sentimental. I kind of like it. Adrian pulled her closer, his arm around her shoulders. Elena let herself lean into him, let herself feel safe for the first time in days. 72 hours, he murmured against her hair. Then this is over. Promise? Promise. She closed her eyes, listened to his heartbeat, and chose to believe him. Adrian fell asleep on her couch 20 minutes later, still holding his coffee cup. Elena took it from his hands carefully, set it on the table, and watched him for a moment. Asleep, he looked younger, less like the man who'd destroyed Marcus Chen's empire in 72 hours, and more like someone who desperately needed rest. She pulled a blanket over him, grabbed her laptop, and settled into the chair across from him to work. Marcus appeared in the doorway, eyebrow raised. He's staying? The bodyguard asked quietly. Looks like it. Should I be concerned? About what? About the fact that your boss is sleeping on your couch and you're looking at him like that. Elena's head snapped up. Like what? Marcus's expression didn't change, but something amused flickered in his eyes. Like maybe the 72 hours just got a lot more complicated. Focus on your job. I'll focus on mine. Yes, ma'am. He disappeared back to his post near the door. Elena tried to focus on the contracts in front of her, failed miserably. Her eyes kept drifting to Adrian, to the rise and fall of his chest, to the way his hand had curled into a loose fist like even in sleep he was ready to fight. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. Again. She almost ignored it. Then she saw the message preview. Check the news, Chen's not your only problem. Elena's stomach dropped. She opened her browser, pulled up financial news sites. The headline hit her like a fist. Shipping magnate. Richard Castellano found dead in apparent suicide. She read the article twice, blood turning cold. Castellano had been one of the major players in Adrian's industry. A competitor, but not an enemy. The article mentioned a single gunshot, a note, financial troubles. But the timing was wrong. Everything about it was wrong. She looked at Adrian still sleeping, thought about waking him, decided against it. He needed rest, and whatever this was, it could wait an hour. It couldn't wait an hour. 30 minutes later, Adrian's phone started ringing. The sound cut through the quiet like a blade. He woke instantly, the way people did when they lived with constant danger. His hand went to his pocket before his eyes were fully open. He looked at the screen, frowned, answered. What? Elena watched his expression shift from annoyance to something colder, sharper. When? A pause. No, I'm not at the office. I'll be there in 20 minutes. He stood, already moving. Lock everything down. No one talks to anyone outside the building. I'll handle the press. He hung up, looked at Elena. You saw the news, he said. Not a question. Castellano. It wasn't suicide. How do you know? Because Richard Castellano was left-handed and the shot was to his right temple. Because he had dinner with me 2 nights ago and talked about his grandkids. Because he was investigating Chen's operations and was supposed to testify. Adrian's jaw tightened. This is Chen sending a message. But Chen's finished. You destroyed him. I destroyed his company. I didn't kill him. And desperate men with nothing left to lose are the most dangerous kind. He grabbed his jacket. I need to go. The police will have questions. The board will panic. I need to control this before it spreads. What about Vincent Cole? What about him? Elena showed him the text. Adrian's expression turned murderous. They're escalating, he said quietly, trying to show they can still strike. So what do we do? You stay here. I handle it. Adrian, no arguments, Elena. If they killed Castellano to send a message, you're next on their list. He moved to the door, stopped, came back, kissed her hard and fast. I'll call you in an hour. Don't leave this apartment. Then he was gone, the door closing with a finality that made Elena's chest tight. Marcus appeared. You okay? Define okay. A fair point. The morning crawled past. Elena worked because the alternative was sitting still and panicking. Files, emails, schedules. The normal architecture of her job felt surreal against the backdrop of murder and threats. At 11 a.m., her phone rang. Adrian. Talk to me, she said. Police are calling it suicide. Chen and Vincent have alibis, clean ones. His voice was tight with frustration. They're smart, professional. This was planned. What about the testimony? Doesn't that prove what? That Castellano had information? That's not evidence of murder. And without proof, we have nothing. Elena's mind raced. What was Castellano investigating? Shipping routes Chen was using to move illegal goods, drugs, weapons, maybe worse. He'd compiled records, documents, everything we'd need to put Chen away for decades. Where are those documents now? Silence. Then, his house. The police sealed it as a crime scene. Can you get them? Not legally. Adrian. I'm working on it, but if I go in there and get caught, everything falls apart. Chen's lawyers would argue evidence tampering. The whole case collapses. Elena thought for a moment. What if someone else got them? Someone who's not connected to you. Like who? Like me? Absolutely not. Listen to me. I'm his executive assistant. If I show up at his house, say I'm collecting files he'd borrowed for work, no one would question it. I grab the documents, leave, clean and simple. Elena, if Chen or Vincent figure out what you're doing, they won't. Because they're watching you, not me. I'm just the assistant. Harmless. You're not harmless. You're the person they've already threatened twice. Which is exactly why they won't expect me to make a move. They think I'm hiding. Let them keep thinking that. More silence. She could practically hear Adrian's mind working through scenarios, calculating risks. It's too dangerous, he said finally. Everything about this situation is dangerous. At least this way we're doing something instead of waiting for the next body to drop. Elena, I'm doing this, with or without your approval. Adrian exhaled sharply. You're going to be the death of me. Probably. So what's the plan? 20 minutes later, Marcus was driving her to Castellano's estate in Greenwich. Adrian had made calls, pulled strings, gotten Elena temporary clearance as a business associate collecting borrowed materials. The story was thin but plausible. This is insane, Marcus said, eyes on the road. Noted. If Mr. Voss knew I was letting you do this, he does know. He approved it. He did? After I threatened to do it anyway without backup. Marcus almost smiled. You're either very brave or very stupid. Can it be both? The drive took 40 minutes. Castellano's estate sat behind iron gates, surrounded by old trees and the kind of wealth that didn't need to announce itself. Police cars lined the driveway. Yellow tape marked the entrance. Elena's hands were sweating. She wiped them on her skirt, forced herself to breathe normally. You don't have to do this, Marcus said quietly. Yes, I do. She got out of the car. A uniformed officer stopped her at the door. I'm sorry, miss, but this is a restricted area. Elena pulled out the documentation Adrian had prepared. I'm Elena Cross, Mr. Castellano's business associate. I'm here to collect some files he'd borrowed from our office. I have authorization. The officer examined the papers, frowned, radioed someone. A detective appeared minutes later, older, tired-looking, probably counting days until retirement. Miss Cross? I'm Detective Morrison. You're here for business documents? Yes, Mr. Castellano had borrowed some shipping contracts last week. My employer needs them back for an audit. Morrison studied her. Your employer being? Adrian Voss. Something shifted in the detective's expression. Recognition. I see. Well, we can't let you wander the property unsupervised, but if you can identify the specific files, I'll have an officer retrieve them. Elena's heart sank. That wasn't going to work. She needed to find the documents herself, didn't know exactly what she was looking for. The thing is, she said carefully, Mr. Castellano's filing system was somewhat unconventional. I'm not sure anyone else would know where to look. If I could just access his office briefly, not possible. This is an active investigation. I understand, but these are confidential business documents. If they're part of your investigation, fine. But if not, my employer is entitled to their return. I can be in and out in 10 minutes. Morrison hesitated. The calculation was clear on his face. Was denying Adrian Voss's representative worth the hassle? 10 minutes, he said finally. Officer Chen will accompany you. Ironic that his name was Chen. Elena followed the young officer through the mansion. It was beautiful in that old money way. Dark wood, expensive art, furniture that had probably been in the family for generations. Castellano's office was on the second floor. The door was open, the interior untouched except for police markers and fingerprint dust. What exactly are you looking for? Officer Chen asked. Shipping manifests, probably in manila folders marked with our company logo. It was a complete lie. She had no idea what Castellano's evidence looked like. She moved to the desk, started opening drawers. Files, papers, nothing obviously incriminating. The officer watched her closely. Think, Elena. Where would someone hide evidence they were gathering? Her eyes landed on the bookshelf. Hundreds of volumes, leather-bound, expensive. Too many for one person to actually read. She pulled out a book at random. It was hollow, empty. Find something? Officer Chen asked. No, just looking. She tried another book, also hollow, then a third. This one had a USB drive inside. Elena's pulse jumped. She palmed it quickly, kept searching to avoid suspicion. Pulled out another book. This one had a small leather journal. I found them, she said, holding up a random folder from the desk. These are the contracts. Officer Chen glanced at them. That's it? That's it. He escorted her back downstairs. Morrison was waiting. You got what you needed? The detective asked. Yes, thank you. Tell Mr. Voss we'll be in touch if we have questions. Of course. Elena walked to the car on legs that felt like water. She climbed in, handed Marcus the folder. Drive. Don't speed, don't do anything suspicious. Did you get it? Elena pulled the USB drive and journal from her jacket pocket. I got something. They were 3 blocks away when her phone rang. Unknown number. Her hand shook as she answered. What? That was bold, Miss Cross. Vincent Cole's voice, smooth as oil. Going to Castellano's house, collecting evidence. You're becoming quite the player. Elena's blood went cold. How did you? We're watching everyone, sweetheart. You, Voss, every move you make. Did you really think we wouldn't notice? I don't know what you're talking about. The USB drive in your pocket suggests otherwise. Vincent laughed. But here's the thing. That evidence? It's useless without Castellano to testify. And we've already made sure that won't happen. So take your little drive, give it to Adrian, watch him try to build a case that will never hold up in court. You're admitting you killed him. I'm admitting nothing. Just stating facts. Richard Castellano committed suicide. Very tragic. The evidence he'd gathered is circumstantial at best, and you're playing a game you don't understand. Then explain it to me. It's simple. Adrian Voss built an empire by being ruthless. He crushed competitors, destroyed careers, made enemies. Now those enemies are tired of playing defense. So we're going on offense. And you, Miss Cross, are standing right in the crossfire. Is that another threat? It's a warning. Adrian can't protect you forever. Eventually he'll make a mistake. And when he does, we'll be there. The line went dead. Elena stared at her phone, pulse hammering. What did he say? Marcus asked. They were watching the house. They know we have the evidence. Does that change anything? I don't know. She called Adrian. He answered immediately. Did you get it? USB drive and a journal, but Vincent called. He knows we have it. Says it's useless without Castellano. Let me worry about that. Where are you? Heading back to the penthouse. Good. Stay there. I'm sending someone to pick up the evidence. Who? Someone I trust. Her name is Sarah Chen. Different Chen, he added before Elena could ask. Former prosecutor. If anyone can build a case from this, it's her. Adrian, they're watching everything. If they killed Castellano, I know, which is why you're staying put until this is over. You keep saying that, but it's not getting safer. 48 hours. I promise. You promised 72 hours 2 days ago. This time I mean it. She wanted to believe him, wanted to think there was an end point to this nightmare, but Vincent's words echoed in her head. Eventually, he'll make a mistake. Back at the penthouse, Elena paced while Marcus stood guard. Sarah Chen arrived an hour later, mid-40s, sharp eyes, the kind of woman who looked like she'd seen everything and wasn't impressed by any of it. "You're Elena," Sarah said. Statement, not question. "Yes. Adrian speaks highly of you. That's rare." She held out her hand. "The evidence?" Elena gave her the USB drive and journal. Sarah examined both, her expression unreadable. "This could be significant," she said finally. "If the documentation is as thorough as Adrian suggested, we might have enough to force a federal investigation, even without Castellano's testimony." Vincent Cole said it was useless. Vincent Cole is trying to scare you. Don't let him." Sarah tucked the evidence into her briefcase. "I'll review everything tonight. If there's a case here, I'll find it." She left as quickly as she'd arrived. Elena sank onto the couch, exhausted. It was barely 3 p.m., but felt like midnight. Her phone buzzed. Not a call this time, a text. Unknown number. "You look tired. You should rest." Elena's skin crawled. She stood, moved to the windows, looked down at the street 40 floors below. A man stood on the corner across from the building, looking up. Even from this distance, Elena could see he was smiling. She stepped back from the window. "Marcus." He was there instantly. "What's wrong?" She showed him the text, pointed to the man on the street. Marcus's expression went hard. He pulled out his phone, made a call. "We have eyes on the building, southwest corner. Yes, now." 30 seconds later, 2 men in dark suits appeared on the street. They approached the watcher. He saw them coming, turned, disappeared into the crowd. "Who were those men?" Elena asked. "Adrian's people. He has teams positioned around the building." "I didn't know that." "You weren't supposed to, but Mr. Voss doesn't take chances." Marcus looked at her. "You should sit down. You're shaking." She was. Elena sank back onto the couch, wrapped her arms around herself. "How long can this go on?" she asked quietly. "Until one side wins." "And if we don't?" Marcus didn't answer. He didn't need to. Hours passed. Elena worked because the alternative was falling apart. At 7 p.m., Adrian called. Sarah reviewed the evidence. It's damning. Shipping routes, financial transfers, communications between Chen and Vincent. Everything we need. That's good news. It is. But there's a problem. Of course there was. What problem? The evidence links Chen and Vincent to smuggling operations. But the murder? There's nothing directly connecting them to Castellano's death, which means even if we destroy their business, they walk free on the killing. So we get them for smuggling instead of murder. It's not enough, Elena. They killed a man. They threatened you. I need them gone, completely. The intensity in his voice made her chest tight. What are you planning? Something probably stupid. Adrian, trust me, one more day. Then this ends. He hung up before she could argue. Elena stared at her phone, dread pooling in her stomach. Adrian in planning mode was dangerous. Adrian angry was worse. Adrian angry and planning was a natural disaster waiting to happen. She tried calling back. He didn't answer. At 9 p.m., her phone buzzed again. This time it was a news alert. Federal agents raid Chen Coal shipping operations. She read the article, pulse jumping. Simultaneous raids across 3 states. Evidence of smuggling, multiple arrests. Her phone rang. Adrian. You did it, she said. Sarah filed everything with federal prosecutors 2 hours ago. They moved fast. Is it over? For Chen, yes. Vincent's more complicated. He's insulated, has alibis, kept his hands clean on paper, but his operation is crippled. He's lost his distribution network, his partners, his legitimacy. So he's desperate. Extremely. Which makes him more dangerous. Yes. Elena closed her eyes. What's the move? You stay there. I'm handling Vincent personally. Personally how? Better you don't know. Adrian, if you're planning something illegal, I'm planning something necessary. There's a difference. Not to the law. The law doesn't protect people like you from people like Vincent. I do. The possessiveness in his voice should have annoyed her. Instead, it made her feel something complicated and warm. Don't do anything that gets you arrested, she said. I'll try. Adrian, I promise I'll be careful. Get some sleep, Elena. Tomorrow everything changes. He hung up again. Elena looked at Marcus. He's going to do something reckless, isn't he? Probably. And you're okay with that? I'm paid to protect you, not judge him. Marcus paused. But for what it's worth, I've seen a lot of powerful men. Most of them talk about loyalty. Mr. Voss actually practices it. Whatever he's planning, it's because someone threatened you. That means something. It means he's possessive. It means he cares. In his world, that's rare. Elena wanted to argue. Couldn't. She tried to sleep. Failed. At 2 a.m., she gave up, made coffee, sat by the windows watching the city breathe. Her phone rang at 3:17 a.m. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer. Then something made her pick up. Miss Cross? A new voice. Younger. Scared. My name is David. I work for Vincent Cole. Elena sat up straight. What do you want? I want out. Vincent's planning something big. He's going after Adrian Voss tonight. I don't know the details, but it's bad. People are going to die. Why are you telling me this? Because I didn't sign up for murder. I thought we were just running a business. But Castellano, his voice cracked. That wasn't supposed to happen. And now Vincent's talking about sending messages, making examples. I can't be part of this. Where is he? Where's Vincent? I can't tell you that, but I can tell you when. 4 a.m. Whatever he's planning happens at 4 a.m. That's 40 minutes from now. I know. I'm sorry. I couldn't risk calling earlier. He's watching everyone. Does this have anything to do with the federal raids? Everything. Vincent lost everything today. He's got nothing left to lose, which means he's doing something crazy. The line went dead. Elena's hands shook as she dialed Adrian. It rang and rang. Voicemail. She tried again. Same thing. Marcus! He appeared instantly. What's wrong? Call Adrian. Now. Someone just warned me Vincent's planning an attack at 4 a.m. Marcus pulled out his phone, dialed. His expression darkened. Not answering. Where is he? Last I heard, his office. Then we need to go there. Now. Miss Cross, my job is to keep you here. Your job is to protect me. Adrian is walking into a trap. If he dies, do you really think Vincent stops? He'll come for me next. Our best chance is stopping this before it starts. Marcus hesitated for exactly 3 seconds. Then he grabbed his jacket. Stay behind me. Do exactly what I say. Clear? Crystal. They took the service elevator down, avoiding the main lobby. Marcus's car was in the underground garage. He drove like he was still in the military, fast, efficient, no wasted movement. Manhattan at 3 a.m. was eerily empty. They hit green lights the whole way, like the city itself was conspiring to get them there faster. Adrian's building loomed dark against the night sky. Most floors were unlit, but the 43rd floor glowed. Marcus parked illegally, didn't care. Stay close, touch nothing. If I tell you to run, you run. They entered through the service entrance. The security guard was slumped at his desk. Not dead, Elena could see him breathing, but unconscious. They're already here, Marcus whispered. He pulled a gun from his jacket. Stay behind me. They took the stairs. 43 floors. Elena's legs burned by floor 20, screamed by floor 35. She kept moving. On the 42nd floor, Marcus stopped, held up a hand. Voices above them. 2 men talking quietly. Just need to wait until Voss leaves. Vincent wants it clean. What about the girl? What about her? Once Voss is gone, she's irrelevant. Elena's blood went cold. Marcus looked at her, mouthed, Stay here. She shook her head. No way was she staying behind. He clearly wanted to argue. Didn't have time. They moved up the last flight of stairs together, silent as shadows. The 43rd floor hallway was empty. Adrian's office door was closed, light showing underneath. The 2 men were positioned on either side of the elevator, waiting. Marcus made a gesture Elena didn't understand. Then he moved, fast. The first man went down without a sound. The second turned, reaching for his weapon. Marcus hit him hard, professional, brutal. He dropped. Elena's heart hammered so hard she thought it might break through her ribs. Marcus zip-tied both men, gagged them, dragged them into a conference room. Then he moved to Adrian's door, listened, knocked softly. "It's Marcus. I have Elena." The door opened. Adrian stood there in shirt sleeves, tie loosened, looking exhausted and furious and relieved all at once. "What are you doing here?" he demanded, looking at Elena. "Saving your life. You're welcome." "I told you to stay." "Vincent's planning an attack. 4 a.m. Someone tipped me off. Those two in the hallway were waiting for you." Adrian's expression shifted. He looked at Marcus. "How many?" "Just those two that I saw. But if they're scouts, there are more." Adrian moved to his desk, pulled out his own weapon. "Vincent doesn't do small moves." "We need to leave," Elena said. "Now, before—" The elevator dinged. They all froze. The doors opened. 4 men stepped out, all armed, all looking for a fight. Vincent Cole was with them. He saw Adrian through the office window, smiled. "Well," Vincent said, "this is unexpected." Adrian moved first. He pulled Elena behind his desk in one smooth motion, putting himself between her and the doorway. Marcus positioned himself at the other angle, gun raised, creating a crossfire position. Vincent stood in the hallway with his 4 men spread out behind him. He looked different than Elena had imagined. Older, weathered, the kind of person who'd spent decades making terrible decisions and somehow surviving them. "You should have stayed in hiding, Miss Cross," Vincent said conversationally. "This didn't have to include you." "Nothing about this had to happen," Elena shot back. "You could have walked away." "Walk away?" Vincent laughed. "From what? You and your boyfriend destroyed everything I built. Chen's in federal custody. My distribution network is gone. My partners won't return my calls. I have nothing left." "That's not our problem," Adrian said, his voice cold. "It is, actually, because you made it personal when you went after my nephew. Ethan might be an idiot, but he's family. You humiliated him, used federal agents to tear apart my business. Did you think I'd just accept that? I think you're out of options. The building's locked down. I have people in the lobby. You're not walking out of here." Vincent's smile widened. "You're bluffing. If you had backup, they'd already be here." "Would they?" The stairwell door behind Vincent opened. 3 men stepped out. Not Vincent's people. Adrian's. They wore suits but moved like soldiers. Vincent's expression flickered, just for a second. Then the mask returned. "Interesting," he said, "but I still have more guns than you." "Numbers don't win wars, Vincent. Strategy does. And you walked into my building thinking you had the advantage. That was your first mistake." "What was my second?" "Threatening her." Adrian's voice dropped to something dangerous. "You could have come after me directly, made it clean. Professional. Instead, you targeted Elena, used her as leverage. That stopped being business and became personal." "Everything's personal, Voss. You just pretend otherwise." Elena's heart hammered against her ribs. She could feel the tension in the room like electricity before a storm. One wrong move and people would die. "Let us walk out," Vincent said. "I take my men, you take yours, we both disappear. Clean break." "Not happening." "Then what? You shoot me here? On the 43rd floor of your building? Explain that to the police?" "I don't have to shoot you. The federal prosecutor has everything she needs to put you away for 20 years. Smuggling, racketeering, conspiracy. You're done." "Maybe. But I can still take you with me." Vincent's hand moved slightly. "You think I came here unprepared? I have enough evidence about your operations to bury you right alongside me. Offshore accounts, bribes, under-the-table deals. You're not as clean as you pretend, Voss." Adrian's expression didn't change. "Release it. See what happens." "You're calling my bluff?" "I'm calling your suicide. You release that information, you admit your own involvement in those deals. We both go down. But here's the difference. I have lawyers who can make the charges disappear. You have nothing." Vincent's jaw tightened. "I could kill you right now." "You could try. But Marcus is former Force Recon. He's killed more people than you've ever met. And my 3 men in the hallway? They're not here for show. You might get me. Maybe. But you'll definitely die. Is that really how you want this to end?" The silence stretched. Elena could barely breathe. She watched Vincent's face, saw him calculating odds, weighing options. A desperate man making desperate math. "There's another way," Elena said suddenly. Everyone looked at her. What way? Vincent asked. Elena stepped out from behind the desk. Adrian tried to grab her arm. She pulled free. You want revenge. You want Adrian to hurt the way you're hurting. I get it, but killing him doesn't accomplish that. He'd be dead. He wouldn't feel anything. Elena, Adrian said quietly, warning in his voice. She ignored him. But if you walk away now, cooperate with federal prosecutors, give them everything they want, you could cut a deal. Reduce sentence. Maybe even witness protection. You'd get to live. Live in a cage. Better than dying on an office floor. Vincent studied her. You're smart. I see why he keeps you around, but you're forgetting something. I don't do cages. I'd rather die free than live locked up. Then you're an idiot, Elena said flatly, because dying here doesn't make you free. It just makes you dead. And Adrian wins anyway. He gets to bury you, take over whatever's left of your operation, and move on. You think that's victory? You're just making his life easier. Something shifted in Vincent's expression. Doubt, maybe, or calculation. What's your angle here? He asked. Why do you care if I live or die? I don't, but I care that Adrian doesn't have to watch you bleed out in his office. I care that this doesn't turn into a crime scene that follows him for the rest of his career. And I care that we can all walk out of here without anyone dying. You really think the feds would deal with me? I know someone who could make it happen. Former prosecutor. She's already building the case against you. If you cooperate, give her everything. She might be able to work something out. Vincent laughed. It sounded broken. A deal after everything. It's better than nothing. Is it? Adrian moved beside Elena. She could feel the tension radiating off him. Take the deal, Vincent, or don't. But make a decision. My people are getting impatient. Vincent looked at his 4 men, then at Marcus, then at Adrian's 3 people in the hallway. The math wasn't in his favor. If I take this deal, Vincent said slowly, I want guarantees, real ones, not just promises. Sarah Chen can provide those, Adrian said, but you hand over your weapon first. Your men do the same. Then we talk. You expect me to trust you? No. I expect you to recognize when you've lost. The standoff stretched for another 10 seconds. Then Vincent set his gun on the floor, kicked it toward Adrian. Stand down, he told his men. They hesitated. Vincent turned to them. I said, stand down. It's over. Slowly, reluctantly, they lowered their weapons. Marcus moved forward, collected the guns efficiently. Adrian's people did the same with the men in the hallway. Elena's legs felt like water. She grabbed the desk for support. Adrian's hand found hers, squeezed once. Brief reassurance. Call Sarah, he told her quietly. Elena pulled out her phone with shaking hands, dialed. Sarah answered on the second ring, sounding wide awake despite the hour. Elena, what's wrong? Vincent Cole is here. He wants to deal. Can you make that happen? Brief silence. Put him on. Elena handed her phone to Vincent. He took it, walked a few steps away. The conversation was quiet, clipped. Legal terminology Elena barely understood. 5 minutes later, Vincent handed the phone back. She wants to meet tomorrow morning, 9 a.m., her office. I show up alone, unarmed, with everything I have on Chen's operations and anyone else involved. In exchange, she'll talk to federal prosecutors about a reduced sentence. Will you be there? Adrian asked. Vincent looked at him for a long moment. Do I have a choice? Everyone has choices. You just ran out of good ones. Fair enough. Vincent straightened his jacket. Can I leave or am I under arrest? You can leave, but Marcus is going to escort you out. Make sure you get home safely. The implication was clear. Make sure you don't run. Vincent nodded. He looked at Elena. You're wasted on him. I'm exactly where I want to be. Then you're both crazy. He followed Marcus to the elevator. The doors closed on them. Adrian's 3 men cleared out the unconscious guards from earlier, moved them to the elevator. The office fell silent. Elena sank into Adrian's desk chair. Her whole body was shaking. That was stupid, Adrian said. Which part? Coming here. Putting yourself in danger. Negotiating with a man who wanted to kill us. It worked, didn't it? That's not the point. Then what is the point? Adrian moved to the windows, hands in his pockets. The point is you could have died. If Vincent had pulled the trigger, if his men had decided the odds were worth it, If any one of a dozen things had gone differently, you'd be dead. But I'm not. This time, Elena stood, walked over to him. We're both still here. That's what matters. Is it? Adrian, look at me. He turned. In the harsh office lighting, he looked exhausted. Worn down by days of fighting, by the weight of protecting her, by the constant calculation of staying ahead of people who wanted him dead. I chose this, Elena said. Chose you. Chose to be part of this world. You don't get to feel guilty about that. I should have kept you away from all of this. You couldn't have. I walked into your office 4 months ago of my own free will. I stayed because I wanted to. And I came here tonight because the thought of you dying was worse than the thought of me getting hurt. That's not rational. Nothing about this is rational, but it's real. Adrian's hand came up, fingers tracing her jaw. You terrify me. Good. We're even. He kissed her, slow and deep and full of everything they hadn't said. When they finally broke apart, the sky outside was starting to lighten, dawn creeping over Manhattan. We should go, Adrian said, before building security finds unconscious guards and calls the police. What about Vincent? If he shows up tomorrow, we move forward. If he runs, federal prosecutors will add fleeing to his charges. Either way, he's finished. They took the elevator down. The lobby was empty except for Adrian's people cleaning up the mess. No one spoke. Professional efficiency. Marcus was waiting by the car. Vincent's home. 2 of our people are watching his building. He won't run. Good work, Adrian said. They drove back to the penthouse in silence. Elena kept replaying the confrontation in her head. Vincent's face when he'd realized he'd lost. The moment his men had lowered their weapons. How close they'd all come to something irreversible. Back at the penthouse, Adrian poured them both whiskey, despite the early hour. They sat on the couch, watching the sunrise paint the city gold and pink. What happens now? Elena asked. Now we wait. See if Vincent keeps his word. Sarah builds her case. Federal prosecutors move forward. Chen's operation gets dismantled completely. And us? What about us? Do we go back to normal? You as my boss, me as your assistant, pretending none of this happened. Adrian took a sip of whiskey. I don't think we can go back. I don't want to. He looked at her. You're sure? This is your chance to walk away. Clean break. I'll give you a recommendation that would get you any job in the city. You could have a normal life. I don't want normal. I want this. This is dangerous. I know. This is complicated. I noticed. Elena, stop trying to talk me out of staying. I'm not going anywhere. Adrian's expression shifted. Something raw and vulnerable flickered across his face before the control returned. Okay, he said quietly. Okay? Okay. You stay. We figure this out together. Just like that? Just like that. Elena set her glass down. For someone who runs a corporate empire, you're surprisingly bad at negotiations. How so? You gave in way too easy. I was prepared to argue for at least 10 more minutes. Adrian almost smiled. I'm tired of arguing, and you're stubborn. I'd lose anyway. Probably. They sat in comfortable silence. Outside, the city woke up, traffic sounds rising, people starting their days completely unaware of what had happened in the hours before dawn. Elena's phone buzzed. Sarah. Vincent showed. Early. He's scared. This is going to work. She showed Adrian the message. He nodded, set his own phone down. Get some sleep, he said. Real sleep, in an actual bed. What about you? I'll sleep when this is over. Adrian. I'm fine. You're exhausted. I'm functional. There's a difference. Elena stood, held out her hand. Come on. Where? To bed. We're both sleeping. The world can wait 4 hours. Elena. That wasn't a suggestion. He stared at her. Then, surprisingly, he took her hand, let her lead him to the bedroom. They collapsed on top of the covers, fully clothed. Adrian pulled her against him, his arm around her waist. This is unprofessional, he murmured. We crossed that line days ago. Fair point. Elena closed her eyes. Adrian's heartbeat was steady against her back. For the first time in days, she felt safe. She woke 4 hours later to an empty bed and the smell of coffee. Adrian was in the kitchen, on the phone, looking slightly more human after sleep. Yes, I understand. No, that's acceptable. Thank you. He hung up, saw Elena. Coffee's fresh. Who's that? Sarah. Vincent gave her everything. Names, routes, financial records, enough to implicate a dozen other people in Chen's network. Federal prosecutors are offering him 7 years with possibility of parole in 4. Will he take it? He already did. Signed the deal an hour ago. Elena poured coffee. So it's really over? The immediate threat? Yes. But there will be others. People who worked for Chen, people who lost money when his operation collapsed. Some of them will blame me. Blame us. Adrian's expression softened slightly. Blame us. I can handle it. I know you can, but I don't want you to have to. Too bad. This is the deal. You get me as a partner, I get the danger that comes with you. Package deal. When did you become so fearless? I'm not fearless. I'm terrified. But I'm also tired of hiding. Adrian set his coffee down, moved closer. I don't know how to do this. Do what? Have someone in my life who matters this much. Everyone I've ever cared about, I've either lost or pushed away. I don't know how to keep you without destroying you. Elena's chest tightened. You're not going to destroy me. You don't know that. Neither do you, so we try. We make mistakes. We figure it out. That's optimistic. Someone has to be. You're too busy being paranoid. He almost laughed. Paranoid has kept me alive. And now you have me to keep you sane. Balance. Is that what you are? My balance? Among other things. Adrian pulled her close, kissed her forehead. I'm going to be terrible at this. Probably, but I'm excellent at managing difficult people. It's literally my job. Was your job. You're not my assistant anymore. Elena pulled back. What? You can't be my partner and my employee. Conflict of interest, HR nightmare, completely inappropriate. His eyes held hers. So you're getting promoted. To what? Chief Operating Officer, same floor, different office, actual authority instead of just executing my orders, salary increase, full benefits. And before you argue, this isn't nepotism. You've earned it. You've been running half my operations for months anyway. Elena stared at him. You're serious? Completely. Adrian, people will talk. Let them. I don't care about office gossip. The board will approve it because you're qualified. Anyone who suggests otherwise can take it up with me. Elena's mind raced. COO, real power, real responsibility. It was everything she'd worked toward her entire career, and it was being handed to her by the man she was sleeping with. I need to think about this, she said. Take your time. But the offer stands. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. Again. She tensed. Adrian saw it. What's wrong? Elena showed him the screen. He took the phone, answered it, put it on speaker. Who is this? Mr. Voss. A woman's voice, professional, calm. My name is Director Elizabeth Morrison, FBI. I'm calling about the Chen investigation. Adrian's expression shifted to carefully neutral. How can I help you, Director? We'd like to speak with you and Miss Cross. Not as suspects, she added quickly, as witnesses. Vincent Cole's testimony has opened several new lines of investigation. Your cooperation would be valuable. When? This afternoon, if possible. Our field office. I can send a car. That won't be necessary. We'll come to you. 2 p.m.? Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Voss. She hung up. Elena looked at Adrian. FBI? Expected. Vincent's testimony implicates major players. They'll want to corroborate everything. Should I be worried? No. We didn't do anything illegal. Just tell the truth. The truth is, we manipulated evidence gathering and threatened multiple people. The truth is, we collected information legally available and defended ourselves when threatened. Perspective matters. That's corporate speak for lying. That's legal strategy for surviving. At 2 p.m., they walked into the FBI field office together. Director Morrison was mid-50s, sharp-eyed, the kind of person who'd probably seen everything twice. She led them to a conference room. No recording devices visible, but Elena assumed they were there anyway. Thank you for coming, Morrison said. This shouldn't take long. We just need to verify some details from Mr. Cole's testimony. The next 2 hours were exhausting. Question after question. Dates, times, conversations. Elena answered honestly, carefully. Adrian did the same. Finally, Morrison sat back. That matches what we have. Thank you both. You're free to go. That's it? Elena asked. That's it, unless new information surfaces. We may contact you again, but for now, you're done. They walked out into late afternoon sunshine. Elena felt like she'd been holding her breath for days. Is it really over? She asked. The investigation? Probably not. They'll be working this case for months, but our part? Yes. So what now? Adrian looked at her. Now we build something new. Like what? Like a life, together, however that looks. Elena felt something tight in her chest loosen. That sounds terrifying. It really does. Good thing we're both used to terror. They walked to the car. Marcus was waiting, still professional, still armed. He nodded to them both. Where to? He asked. Adrian looked at Elena. She looked back. Somewhere normal, she said. Dinner. A restaurant. Like regular people. We're not regular people. We can pretend for one night. Adrian considered, then smiled, actually smiled, full and genuine. Okay, one night, normal. They found a small Italian place in the village. No reservations, no VIP treatment, just a table in the corner and wine that wasn't trying to impress anyone. They talked about everything except the last week. Movies, books, childhood stories. Elena learned Adrian had a sister he rarely saw, that he'd wanted to be a teacher before his father pushed him into business, that he hated cilantro and loved terrible action movies. Adrian learned Elena had grown up in Ohio, that her parents thought she was wasting her talent working for someone else, that she'd turned down 3 job offers in the last year because none of them challenged her the way working for Adrian did. You turned down offers and didn't tell me? Adrian asked. You didn't ask. I should have been offering you more money. It wasn't about money. It was about the work. And now? Now it's about you. The work is just a bonus. Adrian's expression shifted. You're going to ruin me, probably. They finished dinner, walked through the village holding hands like normal people did. Marcus followed at a discreet distance, pretending he wasn't there. Back at the penthouse, they finally addressed what had been simmering between them all day. I should go home, Elena said. Get my own clothes. Normal routine. Or you could stay here. Adrian, I'm not asking you to move in. I'm asking you to stay tonight. Tomorrow, we figure out logistics. Elena looked around the penthouse, at the space that had been her prison and sanctuary, at Adrian, who looked like he was trying very hard to seem casual about something that clearly mattered. Okay, she said. I'll stay. Relief flickered across his face. Good. They stood there awkwardly, 2 people who'd survived attempts on their lives, who'd faced down armed men, who'd built and destroyed empires together, completely uncertain about what came next. I don't know how to do this either, Elena admitted. Do what? The normal part. Dating, relationships, being with someone who isn't actively trying to control every aspect of my life. I'm definitely going to try to control aspects of your life. I know, and I'm going to fight you on it. I'm counting on it. Adrian moved closer, kissed her, slow and deliberate and full of promise. Tomorrow we go back to work, he said. Face the board, deal with the gossip, figure out this COO position. And tonight we just exist together. No danger, no plans, just this. I can do that. They made it work. Somehow. Elena stayed in the penthouse that night and the next. By the end of the week, enough of her clothes had migrated there that going back to her apartment felt pointless. The board meeting was exactly as uncomfortable as expected, but Adrian presented Elena's promotion with such clinical efficiency that arguing seemed petty. She was qualified. The metrics proved it. Anyone who objected was either jealous or stupid. The office gossip lasted 3 days before something more interesting happened. People adapted. Life moved forward. Vincent Cole testified in federal court. Chen was indicted on 17 counts. The empire they'd built crumbled piece by piece, and Elena and Adrian figured out how to be partners. In business and in whatever they were building together. It wasn't perfect, They fought about authority, about boundaries, about whether Adrian got to assign her security without asking. But it worked. 3 months later, Elena stood in her new office on the 43rd floor and realized she'd stopped looking over her shoulder. The space was smaller than Adrian's, but positioned strategically, close enough to coordinate, far enough to establish independence. Floor-to-ceiling windows. Her own assistant, a sharp woman named Maya, who reminded Elena of herself 6 months ago. A nameplate that read, Chief Operating Officer. She'd earned it, the board knew it, the employees knew it, and more importantly, she knew it. Her phone buzzed. Adrian, board meeting in 10. Don't be late. You're not my boss anymore, remember? I'm the CEO. Everyone's my boss. That's not how hierarchy works. It is when I say it is. Elena smiled despite herself. 3 months, and he still couldn't resist giving orders. But now she had the authority to ignore them when it suited her. She grabbed her tablet, headed to the conference room. The executive team was already gathering. Department heads, senior VPs, people who'd been skeptical of her promotion until she'd restructured their supply chain and saved the company $8 million in the first quarter. Adrian arrived last, because he always did. Power move. Everyone waited until he sat. Let's make this quick, he said. Quarterly earnings are up 14%. Our legal issues from the Chen situation are resolved. Federal prosecutors sent a formal thank you. We're acquiring Bergman Industries next week. Anyone have problems with any of that? Silence. Good news didn't generate arguments. Elena, update on the tech integration? She pulled up her presentation. Phase 1 is complete. We're ahead of schedule and under budget. Phase 2 launches next month. Projected ROI is 23% over 2 years. One of the older VPs, Harrison, leaned forward. That's aggressive. That's accurate, Elena corrected. I've run the numbers 3 times. We're conservative on the projections. Still seems optimistic. Then you're welcome to review my data. I'll send you everything after this meeting. Harrison sat back. Adrian's expression remained neutral, but Elena caught the slight upturn at the corner of his mouth. Pride, maybe, or amusement at watching her handle challenges he used to field alone. The meeting ended 40 minutes later. People filtered out. Adrian waited until the room was empty. Harrison's going to be a problem, he said. Harrison's been a problem since before I got here. He doesn't like that I'm younger than him and better at my job. How are you planning to handle it? I'm going to prove him wrong repeatedly until he either respects me or retires. That could take years. I'm patient. Adrian moved closer, his voice dropping. We have dinner with the Castellano family tonight. Richard's widow wants to meet you. Elena's stomach tightened. They'd been avoiding this conversation for weeks. Adrian, I don't know if that's a good idea. She specifically asked, said she wants to thank the people who brought down the men responsible for her husband's death. We didn't bring them down. The FBI did. We started it. Vincent's testimony, the evidence we collected, that's what gave prosecutors their case. And if she asks questions we can't answer, we tell her the truth, that her husband was brave, that his evidence mattered, that we made sure his death wasn't for nothing. Elena nodded slowly. What time? 7. I'll pick you up. I live with you. You don't need to pick me up. I'm being romantic. You're being controlling. Can it be both? She left before she could smile at him. Office relationships were already complicated enough without giving people more ammunition. Maya stopped her in the hallway. Miss Cross? There's someone here to see you. She doesn't have an appointment but says it's urgent. Who? She wouldn't give her name, just said you'd want to hear what she has to say? Elena's instincts prickled. Where is she? Reception. Elena took the elevator down. The lobby was quiet, late afternoon lull before the evening rush. A woman stood by the windows, mid-30s, expensive suit, nervous energy. She turned when Elena approached. Miss Cross? That's me? You wanted to speak with me? My name is Jennifer Cole. Vincent is my father. Elena's blood went cold. I don't think we have anything to discuss. Please, just 5 minutes. I'm not here to threaten you or cause problems. I just need you to understand something. Against her better judgment, Elena gestured to a seating area. They sat across from each other, carefully distant. My father made terrible choices, Jennifer said without preamble. I know that. The smuggling, the violence, all of it. He deserves to be in prison. But he's still my father, and he asked me to give you a message. I don't want messages from your father. It's not a threat. It's an apology. That stopped Elena. What? He said to tell you he's sorry for targeting you, for putting you in danger. He said you reminded him of me, smart, stubborn, loyal to the wrong people. He said if he'd met you differently, he would have tried to recruit you instead of threaten you. Elena didn't know what to say to that. Jennifer continued. He also said to tell Adrian Voss that he respects what he built, that in another life they could have been partners instead of enemies. She paused. And he wanted you both to know, the people he worked with, the ones who didn't get caught, they're not going to let this go. You destroyed a network that took decades to build. There will be retaliation. Is that the apology part or the threat part? It's a warning. My father's locked up. He can't hurt anyone anymore. But his former partners? They're still out there. And they blame you. Why are you telling me this? Because despite everything, I don't want to see you hurt. You didn't ask to be pulled into this. You were just doing your job. And now you're a target because of decisions my father made. Jennifer stood. Be careful, Miss Cross. The world my father operated in doesn't forgive or forget. She left before Elena could respond. Elena sat there for a long moment, processing. Then she pulled out her phone, texted Adrian. We need to talk. Now. He appeared 10 minutes later, concern etched on his face. What happened? She told him about Jennifer, about Vincent's message, about the warning. Adrian's expression turned to stone. Vincent's trying to scare you. He's in prison. How is he trying anything? Messages through his daughter, planting seeds of paranoia, making you look over your shoulder again. It's psychological warfare, or it's a legitimate warning. Either way, we handle it. I'll have security increased, background checks on anyone new who approaches us. Marcus stays with you. Adrian, Marcus has been with me for 3 months. At some point, we have to accept that constant security isn't sustainable. It's sustainable as long as you're alive. That's not living, that's hiding. They stared at each other. This argument had become familiar. Adrian's need to protect versus Elena's need for normalcy. Compromise, she said. Marcus stays for another month. But after that, we scale back unless there's a credible threat. Deal? Adrian's jaw worked. 2 months. 6 weeks. Fine. 6 weeks. But if anything happens, you get to say I told you so. I know. He pulled her close, kissed her forehead. I can't lose you. You're not going to. I'm too stubborn to die. That night, they met Richard Castellano's widow at a quiet restaurant in the Upper East Side. Catherine Castellano was in her 60s, elegant in the way old money produced, grief worn like an expensive coat. She stood when they arrived, shook Adrian's hand, then Elena's. Thank you for coming, she said. I know this must be awkward. Not at all, Adrian said, though it was. They sat, ordered wine, made small talk about nothing important while they all avoided the real conversation. Finally, Catherine set down her glass. My husband told me about you, both of you. He said Adrian Voss was the smartest businessman in Manhattan, and Miss Cross was the person who actually made his empire run. Elena blinked. He said that? He did. Richard believed in giving credit where it was due. He also said you were both in terrible danger and refused to walk away from each other despite that. He found it romantic. I found it terrifying. Mrs. Castellano, Adrian started. Catherine, please. And I'm not here to make you uncomfortable. I just wanted to meet the people who made sure my husband's death mattered. Vincent Cole is in prison. Marcus Chen is awaiting trial. The network they built is destroyed. That's because of you. That's because of your husband's evidence, Elena said quietly. We just made sure it reached the right people. You also put yourselves in the line of fire. You didn't have to do that. Yes, we did, Adrian said. They threatened Elena. After that, it became personal. Catherine smiled sadly. Richard would have liked you both. He always respected people who protected their own. She reached into her purse, pulled out an envelope. This is for you. Richard's lawyer gave it to me after he died. Instructions to deliver it to Adrian Voss if anything happened to him. Adrian took the envelope carefully. What is it? I don't know. He didn't tell me. But he said it was insurance, whatever that means. Adrian opened it. Inside was a single page and a USB drive. His eyes scanned the letter, expression unreadable. "What does it say?" Elena asked. He handed it to her. The letter was brief. Richard explaining that if Adrian was reading this, he was probably dead. That the USB drive contained additional evidence, not just about Chen and Vincent, but about other operations, other players. Names Adrian would recognize. People in positions of power who'd been complicit. The letter ended with a simple instruction. Use this however you see fit. But be careful. Some of these people are more dangerous than Chen ever was. Elena looked at Adrian. This is leverage, he finished. Richard collected dirt on everyone in the industry. This is his insurance policy, and now it's ours. What are you going to do with it? Nothing. For now. But if anyone comes after us, after you, I'll have options. Catherine was watching them carefully. That's what Richard wanted. He believed in being prepared, in having contingencies. He would want you to have every advantage. They finished dinner, said goodbye to Catherine with promises to stay in touch, walked out into the Manhattan night with a USB drive full of secrets. This changes things, Elena said. It does. We could destroy careers with this. Powerful people. We could, but we won't. Not unless we have to. And if we have to? Adrian's smile was sharp. Then they'll wish they'd left us alone. The weeks that followed were deceptively normal. Work consumed them both. Acquisitions, restructuring, the constant machinery of running an empire. Elena settled into her role as COO with the kind of competence that made people forget she'd been an assistant 6 months ago. Harrison continued to be difficult until Elena reorganized his entire department and improved efficiency by 30%. After that, he was merely annoyed instead of openly hostile. Marcus eventually scaled back to part-time security. Elena reclaimed pieces of normal life. Grocery shopping without a bodyguard, drinks with friends who had nothing to do with Adrian's world, moments where she wasn't constantly calculating threats. Adrian struggled with it. Every time she left the building alone, every time her phone went to voicemail, she could see the tension in his shoulders. But he was trying. Learning that protecting someone didn't mean controlling them. They fought about it, about boundaries and trust and whether Adrian's paranoia was justified or excessive. But they always came back to each other. Always found the center. 6 months after the confrontation with Vincent, the federal trial concluded. Marcus Chen was sentenced to 23 years. Vincent Cole got his 7 years with possibility of parole. Others in the network received various sentences. The news coverage was extensive. Elena's name appeared occasionally, always as a witness, never as a target. Adrian made sure of that, made sure she could rebuild a life separate from the chaos that had consumed them. One night, lying in bed in the penthouse, Elena asked the question she'd been avoiding. Do you ever regret it? Regret what? Adrian asked, half asleep. Everything. The danger. The complications. If you'd never hired me, your life would be simpler. He opened his eyes, turned to look at her. Simpler isn't better. That's not an answer. It's the only answer that matters. Yes, my life is more complicated with you in it. Yes, I worry constantly about your safety. Yes, I have to compromise and negotiate and actually consider someone else's feelings. But I'm also happier than I've been in years, so no, I don't regret it. Even when I'm difficult? Especially when you're difficult. It means you're still here, still fighting, still choosing this. Elena kissed him, soft and slow. I'm always going to choose this. Good, because I'm terrible at letting go. 3 months after that, on an ordinary Tuesday in April, Adrian called Elena into his office. She walked in to find him standing by the windows, hands in his pockets, looking nervous. Adrian Voss didn't get nervous. What's wrong? She asked immediately. Nothing's wrong. I just need to talk to you about something. Okay, talk. He turned. There was something in his expression she couldn't read. Do you remember where we had our first real conversation? Not as boss and assistant, but as equals? Elena thought back. The penthouse, after Ethan's setup, when you told me you'd been having me followed. That's the night everything changed,
when I stopped pretending you were just an employee and admitted you were more. Where are you going with this? Adrian moved closer. I'm not good at this, at relationships or feelings or any of the things normal people do naturally.
But I'm good at recognizing value, at understanding when something is irreplaceable. Adrian, let me finish. You walked into my life and made it better. Complicated, yes. Dangerous, absolutely. But better. You challenge me. You call me on my worst instincts. You make me want to be the person you seem to think I am instead of the person I actually am. Elena's heart was hammering. What are you saying? I'm saying I want this to be permanent. Not just living together or working together or whatever we've been calling it. I want the legal commitment, the public declaration. All of it. He pulled a small box from his pocket. Elena's breath stopped. I'm asking you to marry me, Adrian said. To be my partner in every sense of the word. To build something with me that's stronger than any empire. To stay even when I'm impossible. To keep making me better. He opened the box. The ring was beautiful, simple, elegant, expensive without being ostentatious. Exactly what she would have chosen. Yes, Elena said. No hesitation. No doubt. Adrian blinked. Yes? Just like that? Did you expect me to negotiate? Honestly, a little? I can, if you want, make you work for it. Please don't. She laughed. Then, yes, I'll marry you, despite your control issues and your paranoia and your terrible habit of making unilateral decisions. He slid the ring on her finger. Kissed her like he was sealing a deal. Which, in a way, he was. This is going to be interesting, Elena said. Interesting how? Office gossip, HR nightmares. The board having opinions. I don't care about any of that. You will when Harrison files a complaint. Then I'll fire Harrison. You can't fire someone for having an opinion. I can if I'm creative about the justification. Elena shook her head. We're going to have to set ground rules. About work and personal life. About boundaries. I'm terrible with boundaries. I know. We'll work on it. They told the board the next day. Reaction was mixed. Some congratulations, some thinly veiled concern about conflicts of interest. Adrian handled it with his usual efficiency, making it clear this wasn't up for debate. They told the office the day after. Reaction was predictable. Excitement from some, skepticism from others, resignation from Harrison, who'd probably seen it coming months ago. Elena's parents flew in from Ohio, met Adrian, and spent an entire dinner trying to figure out if he was good enough for their daughter. He won them over by being honest about his flaws and obvious about how much he loved her. They planned the wedding for September. Small ceremony, close friends, and family. Nothing extravagant. Neither of them wanted spectacle. The night before the wedding, Elena stood in the penthouse looking out at the Manhattan skyline. The same view she'd stared at months ago when everything was falling apart. When Vincent's people were hunting her and the future felt impossible. Now the future felt inevitable, scary and uncertain, and absolutely right. Adrian found her there, wrapped his arms around her from behind. Second thoughts? He asked. Not even first thoughts. You? I stopped having thoughts the moment you said yes. Just commitment now. That's very unstrategic of you. You make me unstrategic. It's terrifying and perfect. The wedding was everything it needed to be and nothing it didn't. Elena wore a dress that made Adrian forget how to speak. He wore a suit that made her forget why she'd ever thought marrying her former boss was a bad idea. They said vows they'd written themselves. Promised to challenge each other, protect each other, build something neither could create alone. Promised to fight fair and love fiercely, and never stop choosing each other. Catherine Castellano attended, sat in the front row, cried quietly. Sarah Chen came with her wife, congratulated them both, made jokes about how she'd known from their first legal consultation that they were going to end up together. Marcus stood near the back, still professional, still armed, but smiling. Vincent Cole sent a card from prison. It said simply, "Congratulations. You won. Don't waste it." Elena didn't know whether to be touched or disturbed, settled on both. The reception was at a private club overlooking Central Park. They danced, ate cake, made speeches about partnership and building futures. It felt surreal and perfect and exactly right. Late in the evening, Adrian pulled Elena onto the balcony. The city sprawled below them, millions of lights, millions of lives. "You know what's strange?" he said. "What?" "6 months ago, I would have done anything to protect you. Would have destroyed anyone who threatened you. Would have locked you away somewhere safe if I could. That's not strange. That's who you are. But now I realize protection isn't about control. It's about giving you the tools to protect yourself, the authority, the resources, the space to be dangerous in your own right." Elena smiled. "Are you saying you created a monster?" "I'm saying I created an equal, which is far more terrifying." "Good. You needed someone who terrifies you." "I really did." They stood there in comfortable silence, watching their city breathe. "So what now?" Elena asked. "We've defeated the bad guys, built the empire, got married. What's the next challenge?" "Now we live. We build. We face whatever comes next together." "That's vague. That's honest." "I don't know what's coming, but I know we'll handle it. Together. Always together." They went back inside to their guests, to their life, to the future they'd fought for and earned and chosen. The story could have ended differently, with bullets instead of vows, with grief instead of joy, with Elena running instead of staying, but she'd stayed, and Adrian had let her in. And together they'd built something that couldn't be destroyed by threats or violence or the darkness that lived in both their worlds. They'd built something that mattered. 6 months later, Elena stood in a different office on a different floor of a different building. Her company, her name on the door. Adrian had helped fund it, but the vision was entirely hers. Consulting for companies that needed restructuring, that needed someone fearless enough to tell them hard truths. She was good at it. Excellent, actually. Within 3 months, she had a waiting list of clients. Adrian supported it completely, even when it meant competing for her time, even when it meant she was building something separate from his empire, because that's what partners did. They built each other up instead of tearing each other down. On a Thursday in March, 1 year after everything had started, Elena got a call from Director Morrison. "Miss Voss," the FBI agent said. Elena still wasn't used to the name change. "I wanted to inform you personally. We've arrested the last of Chen's network. The investigation is officially closed." "All of them?" "Everyone we could identify. Some fled the country, but the operation is completely dismantled. You and Mr. Voss are no longer considered at risk." Elena closed her eyes. "Thank you for telling me. Thank you for your cooperation. Without the evidence you provided, this case wouldn't have been possible." After she hung up, Elena sat at her desk for a long moment. Then she called Adrian. "It's over," she said when he answered. "Morrison called. They got everyone. The investigation is closed." Silence. Then, "It's really over?" "Really over. Come home. We should celebrate. I have a client meeting at 4. Cancel it." "I can't just cancel. Elena, it's over. Come home. Let's take one night to acknowledge that we survived." She smiled. "Okay, I'll be there in an hour. I'll be waiting." She gathered her things, told her assistant she was leaving early, walked out into Manhattan sunshine feeling lighter than she had in a year. The penthouse was filled with flowers when she arrived, roses, lilies, arrangements everywhere. "What is all this?" she asked. Adrian appeared from the kitchen. "Celebration. We survived. We won. We built something good. That deserves flowers. This is like a funeral's worth of flowers. I may have overdone it." "You think?" But she was smiling. She moved into his arms, let him hold her. "We really did it," she said. "We actually survived. We did more than survive. We thrived." "That's very optimistic for you. You're making me soft." "Good. You needed softening." They ordered takeout, ate on the couch, talked about nothing important. It was ordinary and perfect and exactly what they needed. Later, lying in bed, Adrian said quietly, "I never thought I'd have this." "Have what?" "Peace. Someone to come home to. A life outside the empire." "Is it everything you imagined?" "It's better, because I didn't have to imagine you. You're real, flawed and stubborn and perfect." "I'm not perfect." "You're perfect for me." "That's close enough." Elena kissed him.
long and slow and full of promise.
I love you, even when you're controlling. I love you, even when you're difficult. We're going to be okay, aren't we? We're going to be better than okay. We're going to be extraordinary. And they were. Years later, when people asked Elena how she'd gone from assistant to COO to CEO of her own company, she'd tell them the truth, that she'd walked into Adrian Voss's office looking for a job and found a war instead, that she'd chosen to stay when running would have been smarter, that she'd built a life in the spaces between danger and ambition. But she'd leave out the important part, the part about how Adrian had looked at her that first night in his penthouse and called her his, how she'd looked back and decided that being owned by someone who valued her was different from being controlled by someone who didn't, how they'd learned together that partnership meant fighting beside each other instead of against each other, how love in their world looked different than it did in normal ones, sharper, more dangerous, more honest, how they'd taken something that should have destroyed them and turned it into something that made them stronger. That part was theirs, private, sacred. The world could have the rest of the story, the empire building, the courtroom drama, the business victories. But the quiet moments, the morning coffee, the late night conversations, the way Adrian still couldn't resist giving orders and Elena still couldn't resist defying them, those belonged only to them. And in the end, that's what mattered most. Not the empire they'd built or the enemies they'd defeated, but the life they'd chosen, together, despite everything. The dangerous, complicated, perfectly imperfect life they'd fought for and earned and would defend forever. Because that's what partners did. They stayed. They fought. They won. Together. Always together.